Welcome to your Legal Power Hour. I am your host, AV. Happy New Year, y'all. We're doing new things and we're going to try out, not even try out. We will be having legal power hours from time to time. I just give you all the legal updates. Instead of making separate videos on them, we're just going to do one power hour and then separate it out later. I hope you guys all had a wonderful new year. One power hour. I can hear myself over here. I'm like, what is going on with the sound? Let's put that over here. Okay. Fix the sound. Hit the like button on the way in. It is so good to see y'all. Who do we have in the building? Shout out to Jackie, who hit the like button for me. Good to see you, Jackie. Hi, hi, hi. Sarah's in here as well. Ace. Happy Friday, Ace. Good to see you. Variant is in the building. Hello, Miss Variant. Miss Bucky is in here as well. Good night, 1990. May May's here. May May has a question. May May's like, AV, who is Joe Budden? You might remember this song from the mid 2000s, the pump, pump, pump it up. You know, that might ring a bell. What else did Joe Budden sing? Or at least like what songs is he famous for? It's been a while, but he has a podcast and we have some tea on Joe Budden. And like when I tell you, I read this Artlist headline and I was like, what was Joe doing? So we're going to get into that and a few other things. What we have in the lineup today is I'm going to give you guys the Jay-Z update, a little bit of a win, kind of a loss. We're going to talk about that with the whole case that he's going through. We're going to talk about this Joe Budden thing, and then we're going to talk about Diddy's prison experience because my sources tell me that it is definitely interesting. So strap up, grab a drink. Let me know what you have in your cup. I have a lovely coffee that I'm finishing up here. And we will get into it. Good to see you, Free Thugga Thugga. Akeem is in here as well. Anthony says, I'm going to hit it now. No pause. I saw that. I saw that earlier as we were getting ready for the show, Anthony. Too funny. Tyree is in here as well. Just Lee. Hi, Just Lee. Here Comes Drama is here as well. Good to see everybody. Nurse Janice in the UK says, it's been so long, missed you all. Butterbug is here as well. Jamila, Tron Zero, RTP, Roxanne Shantae. Good to see you, sis. I love that picture, by the way. I love it. I love it. Good to see you. Shay's in here. Lucretia, Lollipop. Michael Love, how was the virtual traffic? How was the virtual traffic? Let us know. Great. I was just thinking about you yesterday. I hope you are doing well. Kiki is here as well. 2 minute approved. 2 minute approved. You remember that last stream, how we ended it. Haktua, spit on that thing. For those that don't know, the Haktua girl is being sued. And we did a nice little video on it. All right, y'all, let's jump into our power hour and get caught up on all the legal news and go from there. First up, we have Jay-Z. Big headline. Y'all know that the judge, right? We did a stream on this, I think, right before the holiday. He filed a request for dismissal of the accuser's lawsuit. And guess what? It was granted by the judge. This was yesterday, I believe. So this is hot off the presses. We have a picture of Jigga here. Jay-Z is a step closer on his quest to dismiss a lawsuit accusing him of the rape of a 13-year-old girl. On Thursday, January 2nd, so this was yesterday, Judge Torres of the Southern District of New York granted a request from the rap mogul's lawyer, Alex Spiro, to file a motion to dismiss on procedural grounds per court documents shared by X. So we saw that on Twitter. Spiro argued on Monday, December 30th, y'all remember that letter to Judge Torres, saying that the woman suing Jay-Z cannot make a claim against the rapper under New York City's Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act because it only came into effect after she alleges she was assaulted by Jay-Z. So he is saying, hey, you know, that rape shield law does not apply because it went into effect after this situation occurred. So that is the main argument in Jay-Z's rebuttal to that lawsuit. In her lawsuit, the woman, identified only as Jane Doe, claimed she was raped by Jay-Z and Diddy at the MTV Music Awards after party in September of 2000. She was just 13 years old. If y'all have not checked out, and we'll put a card above if you're watching this on replay, we did a deep dive into the timeline of the accuser, and there were some strange things, some anomalies, so to speak, in what she included in her lawsuit, what she said in a anonymous NBC interview, and what was alleged, right? So all of those things have been parsed out. Check out that video if you have not already. It is up on the channel. I think we did it last week. The NYC law offering civil procedure to victims, civil recourse, to victims of gender-motivated violence came into effect of December that year, right? According to Judge Torres, Jay-Z's lawyer has been granted permission to file a motion to dismiss by February 6th. Jane Doe's attorneys will then have until February 8th to file opposition papers. Jay-Z has a chance to reply by March 14th. Plaintiff cannot recover for her sole claim under the Victims Generated Motivated Violence Protection Act as a matter of law because the statute does not have a retroactive effect. And that's really what Jay-Z's team, and let me zoom in a little bit more so y'all can follow along. That's really what Jay-Z's team is saying. You can't go back in time. You can only go forward, right? Spiro wrote in a letter to Judge Torres on Monday. He continued plaintiff's assertion of law of the GMV law for conduct that purportedly occurred in September of 2000. But that law was not enacted till December 19th of 2000. 3 months after the claims, the conduct occurred and cannot apply retroactively to create a cause of action unavailable to the plaintiff at the time in question. Here we go with Buzbee. He wrote a letter to the judge on New Year's Eve. These lawyers were working, opposing Jay-Z's request for a file of dismissal. I have that letter. We'll check it out in a second. Buzbee wrote the defendant's argument as to the GMA is unpersuasive, as it is contrary to the law's primary intention to make it easier for victims of gender-motivated violence to seek remedies in court, not as the defendant would have it, make it harder, per a court document shared on Twitter. Last week, Judge Torres said in court documents obtained by TMZ that Jane Doe can remain unnamed as she refused Jay-Z's attempt to have the lawsuit dismissed. Doe's identity revealed. However, the judge noted circumstances could change as the case moves forward. So if y'all remember that correctly, the judge did say, hey, Jane Doe, you can stay anonymous for right now, because that's the other thing that Spiro and Jay-Z's team wanted. They wanted to unmask her. They wanted for her identity to be shared. The judge said no to that request, right? However, the other items that were included are what is to be decided. So the judge is allowing them to file a motion to dismiss. We're going to look at that in a second. Torres stated she intends to revisit the issue and when the case progresses. Doe's attorney, Buzbee, and Jay-Z are also locked into their own legal battle. Jay-Z is suing Buzbee personally, accusing him of extortion and defamation. Buzbee filed his own suit against Roc Nation earlier this month, alleging that the company bribed his clients to file suits against his firm, threatening former clients and impersonated state officials. Roc Nation called the lawsuit baloney. So that's what we have there. Now we're going to shift over to this. This is the ruling from yesterday. So this is the judge's official order. It was electronically filed yesterday afternoon. Judge Torres says the court has reviewed defendant Sean Carter's letter seeking to leave to file a motion to dismiss plaintiff's amended complaint and plaintiff's letter in opposition. Accordingly, 4 things. Jay-Z's request to file a motion to dismiss the plaintiff's amended complaint is granted. By February 6th, so we have about a month, Sean Carter can file his motion. So he has a deadline of February 6th to file that motion to dismiss. By February 28th, so they're also giving the Buzbee team, they have to file their opposition papers. And by March 14th, Jay-Z can file a reply to that. So I feel like this is going to move very, very quickly for a few reasons. Number one, although the judge provides these deadlines, from what we've seen over the past few weeks, it is likely that that motion to dismiss is already written and is probably going to be filed either today or tomorrow. The Jay-Z team, they want to get rid of this right away. Like you're hearing from Beyonce's mother about some of these claims and this whole feud and how the kids feel. And Jay-Z has been very, very adamant on getting rid of this case as soon as possible. So I do think that we're probably going to get a resolution to this sooner rather than later. Now, notice that line item number 2, she's giving Jay-Z a month. And then the deadline for Buzbee to respond is also a month. And then by the 14th, there's going to be a reply. So this is the latest as of yesterday, as far as the motion to dismiss. So it is likely we're going to get some news on this one, but that does not mean that the war between Sean Carter and Buzbee is over. It does not mean that at all. Real quick, just going to grab some super chats and we will move on to the Buzbee response because we do have that too. Boom, I have that for you guys right here. So we're going to look at that, but real quick, I just want to acknowledge some folks. Shout out to Deonra. Good to see you with the $2 super chat. He says, AV with the breakdown. Always, guys, I try to be super thoughtful with how I'm going to present this information to you in a thoughtful way where you can learn some things from it, right? And we can be objective in the court of public opinion. We want to do that over here. We definitely want to do that. So huge shout out to Deonra. Thanks for popping in. Shout out to Hollywood. Happy New Year. Good to see you. Hollywood has gifted a membership. It looks like that membership went to Micah Nick. Micah Nick, if you're here, or if you're watching it on replay, please say thank you to our friend Hollywood. So real quick, thank you guys for being the best community ever and growing the community. Perfect Peace pops in. Good to see you. All right, guys, let's check out this document. So the Buzbee law firm has responded, okay? And this was for the motion to dismiss. Keep in mind that the Buzbee team is probably not upset, or actually they are upset that the Jay-Z team went and looked at when this statute was enacted and when these claims were asserted. So she claims that this happened at the September 2000 VMAs. The law to protect victims was enacted in December of 2000. So it was missed by 2 to 3 months. And real quick, shout out to, look at Michael Love. Look at Michael Love spreading the love. He's spreading the love. Michael Love just gifted you guys 10 AV memberships. Before we dive into this one, just really want to acknowledge him. Michael Love is one of my favorite subscribers. You guys know that I really try to get to know you guys and, you know, acknowledge you when I can. Michael Love has sponsored so many streams of mine. He has when we were watching trials, he was making sure that although I was streaming for 8 hours a day, I had some Cash App money to get some lunch. So thank you so much, Michael Love. Lunch and dinner, always, always a thoughtful person. And you guys see that he is growing the community. If you received a membership from Michael Love, please say thank you. Our membership community is about 1,000 strong right now, and we've got some posts coming for you guys so you can contribute behind the scenes. You can help us develop content. You can help us develop stories. You can help us grow this community, build the Power Hour, and grow in 2025. Thank you so much, Michael Love, for that. That was very sweet of you. All right, let's jump back on in here. So this is Buzbee's kind of counter response. So we know that the Jay-Z team wants to file a motion to dismiss because that law was enacted 2 months after the situation transpired. So here is the letter from Buzbee's team to the judge asking her not to do this, right? He says, Your Honor, I write on behalf of plaintiff Jane Doe in response to defendant Sean Carter's letter dated December 30th, so the day before, pursuant to which defendant requests to file a motion pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 12b-6 to dismiss plaintiff's first amended complaint. Now, you guys know I always like to show you a little bit of legal stuff while we're here. In the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, your 12b-6 motion it's the name of the motion to dismiss. It is very common. A lot of people use it in civil procedure, or at least civil actions, very early on in the lawsuit. It is your motion to get rid of the lawsuit, right? Sometimes you'll see those motions denied, depending on if the judge believes there is enough to warrant a jury trial. Now the judge, because remember, we don't have a trial date set. We don't have a jury selected set. This is very, very early in the process. So Jay-Z using a 12b motion, I'm just trying to pull it up for you guys. Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 12b-6. Okay, perfect. Sharing this tab instead. And this is your 12b-6 motion. This is what it looks like. and here are the rules around it. So it's a defense and objection, when and how it's presented. It's a motion for judgment on the pleadings, consolidating motions, waiving defenses in the pre-trial stage. All right. So we're not at trial yet. We do not have a jury selected, but we want to get rid of this lawsuit. It is a defensive mechanism. So that means you can use it before a trial starts. Okay, so going back to 12b-6, you see how it says A, that's the time to serve a responsive pleading. We need to go down to B, how to prevent defenses, and then we come down to 6, right? So B has a few reasons why you can get rid of a lawsuit: lack of subject matter jurisdiction, lack of personal jurisdiction, improper venue, insufficient process, service of process, failure to state a claim, which is what Jay-Z is saying, and failure to join a party under Rule 19. Very standard, but that's where we have, their motion to dismiss at, okay? Coming back to Buzbee. So defendant states his intention to move for dismissal on the grounds that Doe cannot pursue her claim under the New York City Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act because that law does not have a retroactive effect. However, neither the Second Circuit nor the New York Court of Appeals has endorsed this reading of the law. In support of his argument, defendant cites a trial court order decided on an unopposed record, which is merely persuasive authority. So what is Buzbee saying here? He's using another case and they're like, hey, Jay-Z, don't get too excited. You want to get rid of this. But even though it doesn't have a retroactive effect, let's look at prior New York law and see how it was interpreted. Remember, Buzbee is stationed in Texas, but he had to file a pro hoc vice to be able to litigate this case in New York. If you're a lawyer in a different state, you really have to know a thing or two about the current law in that state, especially if you're, practicing from another state. So you have to really get to know New York law. He says it's persuasive authority, meaning that it's not binding law. It's just merely persuasive. The case, it's not strong enough, JC. It's not strong enough to get rid of me. Who do you think you are? I'm Tony Buzbee. Who do you think you are? Defendant's argument as to the law is unpersuasive, and it is contrary to the law's primary intention to make it easier for victims of gender-motivated violence to seek civil remedies in court, not as the defendant would have it, make it harder. New York passed this law in light of the void left by the Supreme Court's decision in United States v. Morrison. Morrison struck down the federal right of actions for victims of gender-motivated violence under the Violence Against Women Act, holding that Congress lacked the authority under the Commerce Clause or the 14th Amendment to pass such a remedy. Turning the page here, the Supreme Court, however, urged local governments to provide a remedy to women like Morrison who had been brutally raped, as no civilized system of justice could fail to provide her a remedy. The city council recognized that gender-motivated violence is widespread throughout the United States and that 3 out of 4 women will be the victim of a violent crime sometime during their lives. The council also concluded that the victims of gender-motivated violence frequently face a climate of condescension, indifference, and hostility in the court system. The council sought, therefore, to create a private right of actions for victims of gender-motivated violence to resolve the difficulty that victims face in the court remedies by providing an officially sanctioned and legitimate cause of action for seeking redress for injuries resulted from the violence. It's fundamental interpreting a statute. The court should attempt to effectuate the intent of the legislature. So this is something that lawyers do a lot. If you have a law at issue, and that's essentially what Buzbee and Spiro are going through, right? They're arguing about the law. Buzbee is saying, hey, even though there's a gap in time, the situation happened in September and the law was enacted in December. That's what Jay-Z's team is saying. He is saying here, we're making it harder for women, but let's look at the statutory intent of this law. What did the legislature put this law together for? The reason why they do this in New York, you might not have a law like this in your state. You might be in Montana and you might not have a law like this, but it is specific to New York. And why is New York law binding here? Because the situation happened in New York, right? So it is a state law that they're leaning on. But now, I mean, Buzbee's argument and looking at the statutory intent of it is kind of like grasping at straws. He's trying to save this case. He has to save this case for Jane Doe. But at the same time, Buzbee should have never put her on that interview. This is my personal opinion. If I was representing her, I would never have put her on NBC. I mean, what is the intent of that? Getting more, getting more awareness around it? Because what happened is what she said versus what was in the complaint was very different. Her father said some things that were contradictory to what was in the complaint. So that's a little bit of a blunder on the Buzbee team. It really was. PR-wise, and as far as protecting your client, was that a good idea? And again, let me be fair, because I don't know if Buzbee put her on there or if she decided to do the NBC interview, right? But if it came to my attention, I was representing her. Hell no, you ain't going on that show. What is wrong with you, sis? Like, no. Anywho, coming back to this. Similarly, defendant also intends to seek dismissal on the grounds that any viable law claim is time barred under New York's Child Victims Act, which preempts the plaintiff's GMV law claim. However, this court in Doe v. Gooding found that local anti-discrimination laws are generally not preempted by state law in New York. Moreover, Doe v. Black, this court rejected the very same argument defendant makes here. That's a 2024 case. Okay, let's break that down. Buzbee saying, okay, they're using two laws to try to throw this out, right? Depending on the timelines. But you can't use two, and one of them has to preempt the other, right? One of them is a stronger law than the other. That becomes a little confusing. Buzbee, interestingly here, he found two cases where it showed that the court had already ruled that you can't do that. So very interesting. Finally, defendant intends to seek dismissal on the grounds that the conduct alleged in the FAC could not have occurred in New York City based on the plaintiff's description of the residence in question, combined with public records, confirms that any such residence was located outside of New York City. As the defendant seeks to rely on evidence outside of the pleadings, which would transform a motion to dismiss to one for summary judgment. And as discovery, which is not yet underway, it is respectfully submitted that the defendant's proposed motion is procedurally improper and should be denied. In light of the foregoing, plaintiff respectfully requests this court to deny the motions, the request to file a motion to dismiss. So Buzbee lost that argument because the judge granted it. She did. She granted it. I mean, it happened. It happened. She granted the motion to dismiss request. So they're going to file it any day now. And Buzbee lost this argument. So he's got to have a rebuttal prepared for that motion to dismiss. Now, interestingly enough, he is also saying there that, okay, no such residence. And you guys remember breaking down the timeline. We broke it down, coming from the VMAs to this place to the residence where this party occurred, this after party. She states that it was about 20 minutes away, right? So a lot of people have been criticizing, hey, does this woman remember the timelines? It was so long ago. It was 25 years ago when this occurred. Does she have a sharp memory? Do victims generally remember small things like that? But after looking at city plots and maps and things, it does not appear that any residents looked similar to the way she described it, with a U-shaped driveway, things of the like, 20 minutes away. And if it was 20 minutes away, another thing that came up, I was thinking about this the other day. If it was 20 minutes away from Radio City, that doesn't seem like a rural area. Now, if an area is rural, it would make sense that it took her 46 minutes to find a gas station that was open, because remember, she ran on foot, a gas station that was open in that area. But 20 minutes away from Radio City would, you would think that it would be highly populated, that there would be more available gas stations. So that 46-minute gap is also very interesting as we as we think about that. So just wanted to make sure you guys had some line of sight. Now, he is arguing that the evidence that was shared, right, is outside of the scope of discovery and it was improper. I did come across this that I want to show you guys. Alex Spiro did a press conference where he walked through the timeline in itself. It was very interesting. Shout out to the lawyer, I saw him kind of covering this earlier this week, and I did like it. And I was just like, wow, that's interesting to hear it from his mouth and to see where his team was thinking when they were putting this timeline together. This was a few weeks ago, but definitely caught my eye. Let's check it out. It's about a half hour long, and then we'll jump into our updates on Mr. Joe Budden and the lewd behavior. Let's check it out.
When you're trying to evaluate whether something occurred, you have to look at different pieces of the narrative. The location, where it happened, the witnesses, who were they, what did they say, the details. Details are very important in time. So we start off with the location. And according to their complaint, after approximately 20 minutes, she arrived at a white house with a U-shaped driveway and a gate. There is no such location in New York, 20 minutes from Radio City. It does not exist. There is no such location. We don't know whether they created a location in order to try to get jurisdiction in New York so they could bring this case in New York, or whether they just didn't do their homework. But any New Yorker knows there is no such location. Beyond that, this was supposed to have taken place at Mr. Combs' after party, according to them. When you look at the homes associated with Mr. Combs during that period of time, and even not during that period of time, none of them matches. He had a townhouse, he had a house in the Hamptons hours away, and he had homes in New Jersey, but not at that time. None of the homes work, the location doesn't work because this never happened. And again, when you really bear down on the location and his whereabouts, you quickly realize, because there's photographic evidence and witnesses are coming forward, that Mr. Carter was at a commercial establishment after the VMAs. He wasn't at a house. Well, unfortunately for them, they needed to create this house in order to create the narrative. But he wasn't at a White House that did not exist. And this is a photograph of him at a location after the VMAs. So as we can continue through this, that Jane Doe does not say that the assault happened at a commercial establishment. She can't. That wouldn't make any sense. Yet they stand by it. They double down, triple down. White House, the White House doesn't exist. And then we get to the witnesses. And I think at the outset, everybody has to remember that in 24 years, not a single witness has ever come forward saying this happened. Quarter of a century. Think about that. She says she's at the party alone, this 13-year-old girl, and she finds herself in the room with the three most famous people at the party. Just think about how unnatural, how little common sense that makes. And according to her, one of the witnesses is a female celebrity who's just standing there watching the repetitive rape of a child. That celebrity does nothing, says nothing, reports nothing. And in fact, they won't even identify her. According to them, there's an adult female in the room watching the rape of a child. They refuse to identify her. So then we continue, and you look and there's celebrities that she says she's mingling with before. Afterwards, she says she runs out of the house naked. None of them notice that. None of them pay any notice. For 24 years, none of them has said anything. And so she's just asked in this interview, she's asked, well, I mean, celebrities are recognizable people. Surely you can tell us one celebrity that was there. Just give us one name so that we know this happened. And she says, okay, Benji Madden was there. And she wants to conjure up religion and say, I'm religious. I remember his tattoo. She looks and remembers so vividly the tattoo and the conversation with Mr. Madden. Well, Mr. Madden wasn't there. He already said he wasn't there. Tour schedule, she said he wasn't there. And he wasn't there because this never happened. None of this ever happened. And you keep going and you ask yourself, well, who is this complaining witness? She does not come forward with her real name. She proceeds under Jane Doe. There's no report to the police. According to her, she never tells anybody for 24 years. Not one person, not alone in the car for 5 hours at home, on her way home. Not one person, not a diary, not a family member, not a friend.
Oh, Lord.
Most people, when this happens, there's a need to tell somebody. We call these prompt outcry witnesses. In most complaints like this, people tell somebody. She says nobody for 24, 25 years. And then we get to the details. And I want to make sure this is clear. When people make up an account, whether intentionally or their mind is playing tricks on them, they can always get that core part of the story right. They can just keep repeating it over and over and over again. This is what happened, that core part. But they're always going to mess up the details. When something isn't real.
And quick interruption, guys, because I focus on this. And, in their video, there was like a narration, right? There was a young woman narrating from what it sounded like. And I remember this slide. If you look on the left-hand slide, it talks about the allegations. And then on the right-hand side, it talks about the facts. Now, we talked a lot, and especially Spiro here. He talked a lot about Rule 11, right? When you file a lawsuit as an attorney, you have to do your very best to make sure that whatever is in that lawsuit, you as an attorney have done your due diligence to make sure that all of the allegations in that complaint are as factual as possible. And we talked about it. Sometimes your clients will lie to you. Tony Buzbee did not do some of the footwork as far as tracking this story. That's at least what is alleged. And he said himself that the lawsuit, or at least the legal matter, had come from a different law firm, right? So watch what's about to happen, what he's about to say, because that bullet on the very top says Jane Doe's friend who drove her to the VMAs to drop her off is now supposedly dead and cannot corroborate her story. So if the other side was able to find that out, Buzbee, did you check? Because that would have been a witness that is useful to your client's case. Crazy. Let's keep going.
Something doesn't happen, you're going to get the details wrong because you weren't really there. And so she starts with her story about her friend that dropped her off. Okay? This drive of over 5 hours, the friend would have had to have gone 10 plus hours to drop her off because she's got to get there. If this is real, she's got to get there. But guess what? This friend of hers, she doesn't get out of the car, right? Think about that. She's just leaving a 13-year-old girl alone in Midtown. She doesn't even want to get out of the car. She came all that way. There can't be a witness there. She can't have a witness there because this never happened. So as you keep going, you ask yourself, but how did she end up in the car in the first place? And so she creates this story. She says, I snuck out the window, right? But now we know she came from Rochester. So she would have been sneaking out of the window at 3 p.m. in the middle of broad daylight. Never heard of such a thing, defies common sense, doesn't make any sense because this never happened. And so she tells this story because she's got to create a way that she gets out of the house and ends up in New York City. And as we keep going here, the friend that implausibly leaves her there, there's then some pressure on that part of the story because it doesn't make any sense. And so the lawyer is asked, well, just produce the friend. And so he has to find somebody that can make this work. And of course, as soon as he's pressed, they find somebody who they say is no longer alive. They can't corroborate it and there's nobody to talk to. Okay, and if we could keep going. Next slide. So she then gets there, right? And she has this vivid tale of watching it on a Jumbotron. It's in her complaint. Clear as day. There was no Jumbotron that year. Okay? I don't know whether they were Googling images and found the wrong year. I don't know whether she's just making it up out of whole cloth. There is no Jumbotron. In fact, they didn't even get a permit, according to the police and the city, for the Jumbotron that year. So that didn't happen. None of the details are right because this never happened. If we can keep going. And then she says, I'm knocking on the doors and the windows of limousines and VIPs. Of course, that doesn't work either. If you look at the video, photographs, that whole area was blocked off. We've spoken to numerous people there that were in security. No one could have gotten anywhere near those cars because this never happened. She gets that fact wrong. And the whole story about, of all people, she knocks on Puff's window. 13-year-old girl in Midtown by herself. Just think about that. Think about how illogical that is. Keep going. Again, this is Eminem performing in the streets. No Jumbotron. All the cars barricaded. Her facts don't check out because this never happened. We keep going. So what ends up happening then, and this is important, is her original account in the original complaint says that at 9:30 or 10, she's told to wait there to get a ride to the after party. Okay, that also doesn't work because there's photographs now of Mr. Combs, Mr. Carter at commercial establishments in New York after the VMAs. So this narrative of at 10 o'clock she ends up at this party can't work. They got caught. So they change it in the amended complaint that there's this multiple drop off and pickup that lands them at this White House that doesn't exist. So as we continue, this is again her account of trying to change the story into this multiple drop-off period to get them at the house to deal with the fact that there's photographic evidence that that's not where the after party was in the first place. And so as this account continues, you have to look at the timeline. You have to look at the timeline. So there's an old expression that time doesn't lie. Everything else that I'm talking about, these glaring inconsistencies, these are not minor inconsistencies. These are not minor problems with this story. This is utter falsehoods. Time never lies. And so if you look at the time, no matter what, this couldn't have happened. It's not even possible that this happened. And this is so important. So again, now that we know that it's a 5-hour drive in each direction, how she gets to the VMAs, okay, we're going to talk in some detail about this White House and whether or not they could have gotten there. And then again, Doe returns home to Rochester, okay? And this is very important. Because she returns home, she has to leave the New York area by 1:30 in the morning at the latest, okay? If you look at any of these White Houses and you look at the closest gas stations that could be to any of these White Houses, you have to leave this White House party by 12:45 in order to get to the gas station at 1:30 to call your father to pick you up to get home to Rochester at 6:30. So remember, she only has till 12:45 for everything that she says to have happened. The VMAs end at after 11. So you're talking about a window of a little more than an hour. This could possibly have happened even by their own account. And she says during that little bit more than an hour, not only does she get to the house, not only is she inside mingling with celebrities, she has a drink. She's then sexually assaulted in front of an adult female multiple times. She gets out of that. She fights through it. She leaves the house naked. She gets all the way to the gas station. She had 37 minutes to possibly do this. Okay, even under their account. Okay, and of course, the biggest problem perhaps of all is there's photographs putting Mr. Combs and Mr. Carter at different places, not in a White House during that 37 minutes. So when I tell you that it's not just that this story is a lie and that it's not true, it's provably, demonstrably false. This never happened. So we talked about this 37 minutes. The earliest, even if we didn't have that establishments. Remember, this is innocence on top of innocence. Even if we didn't have that.
Real quick, guys, I just also want to let you know this does come from Forbes. So it looks like they were at the press conference. If it seems a little blurry, glitchy, it's really coming from their feed. Just wanted to let you guys know what was going on there. And I see that a few of you guys are dropping some super chats. I'll get to those momentarily, but just wanted to take us through this press conference.
According to her, the earliest they could have gotten to the house is 12:11. And the reason for that is if the VMAs end and the drive is 20 minutes, the driver has to go there, drop them off, come back, pick her up, bring her back. She can't get there. And again, this is lickety split. This is as fast as is possible, okay? This is no traffic leaving Radio City in Midtown during an awards ceremony. 12:11. She has to leave that white residence by 12:48 in order for her father to pick her up at the gas station. 37 minutes. That's the entire window of opportunity here. So here again is the timeline. Shows the 11:11 VMAs end, the drop off, the pickup, and the drop off. Next slide. And again, here we are. You see the 37 minutes. This is the 42 minutes it takes to walk. This is the closest gas station. And this is, remember this is a 13-year-old girl walking who has issues, who is maybe drugged according to her, who's just been viciously raped multiple times, who was holding her own clothing trying to get to a gas station that she had never been before. Okay? No map, no cell phone, no nothing. Straight line, it's 42 minutes. Okay? The story doesn't work. It doesn't check out. Okay? This never happened. Next slide. These are all the things that they claim happened in that 37 minutes. Okay? And again, 37 is giving them every benefit of the doubt as how long this window could be. Every benefit of the doubt. But here's an even bigger problem. There are photographs of Mr. Carter and Mr. Combs at commercial establishments during the 37 minutes. They're not there. Even if you try to come up with the fastest possible timeline, I'm talking about no traffic, nobody getting in your way at the door, right to the bar kind of timeline, it still doesn't work because they had to leave Radio City. They had to go to the commercial establishments. Mr. Combs is photographed at 2 different commercial establishments with Jennifer Lopez, 2 establishments. They had to go to both of those establishments and get back to the White House. Get back to the White House before she has to leave at 12:30. None of this can work. And in fact, and I think this is very important, you will notice in the photographs that Miss Lopez changes clothing between the 2 events that they go to in New York City. You can see in one photograph, she's wearing one outfit and another. So she had to be able to, in this 40-minute window, get to multiple events. They're seen drinking, socializing. She has to change outfits, change her hair, all within 40 minutes to get to that White House in time. And you're saying to yourself, so that's not possible. You're right, it's not possible. It's because this never happened. And then we get to the end. She kept running until she reached a gas station. A female clerk noticed her, allowed her to use the phone. Plaintiff called her father, admitted that she had lied about her whereabouts. And this is a very small thing, very small. But remember, when you leave house and you're 13, you have to have a story. You either have to sneak out, I have a lie, or you tell your parents a lie. Sort of 2 options, right? Earlier, she says, well, I didn't tell my parents a lie. I just snuck out the window, right? Here, she says, well, I lied. See, do you know what that means? That means she's lying even within her own story. They can't both be true. And I said earlier that no witnesses have come forward in basically a quarter of a century, except for one. Now there's one, her own father, the person who knows her best. And he came forward too.
Here we go. And
he said, you know what? This never happened. This never happened. And his attention was drawn to it. I feel like I would remember that. And they said, but you've got a lot going on. Maybe you forgot this. You've got a lot going on. They told him, listen, you've got a lot going on. Try to see if they pressed him, if he stuck to his story. He said, yeah, I have a lot going on, but that's something that would definitely stick in my mind. Of course it would stick in your mind. You drove 10 hours to pick up your 13-year-old daughter in New York City. It's not something you would forget. It's not something that he did forget because this never happened. And of course, just like the friend that couldn't be there at the beginning, you can't have a witness to something that never happened. When asked, well, what did you say to your father in the car? What did you talk about? Nothing. She says not a word was spoken. There can't be a conversation because this never happened. And so you got to ask yourself what's going on here, right? And you all saw that video of her being interviewed in the shadowy room. She's holding a teddy bear. She's talking about her issues, her head trauma. She's been through a lot in her life, you can tell. And so who took advantage of this? Why are we here? Why is this story getting created? And I'll tell you who took advantage of this. This lawyer took advantage of this.
Oh, Lord.
And you can see here, now that this is starting to unravel and the truth is coming out, he's starting to walk away from it. He's saying, oh, sorry, this case was referred to our firm by another firm, so I didn't really check it out, is basically what he's saying, right? He brings an accusation like this, attacks a man with the integrity of Mr. Carter, and all he has to say for himself now is, well, I didn't really check on this. I got a referral, trying to make a little bit of money, so we just went live with it. Next. Here is again the timeline that he went live with. In the face of this irrefutable, time doesn't lie evidence, he went live with it. And again, it doesn't work. This 37 minutes, it does not work. does not work because there's photographs. There's photographs. You can find them on the internet of them. They're changing clothes. She's changed clothes. Do you know how long that takes for her to go to 2 events, change clothes, get inside, have drinks? They're socializing. They're not popping into these events.
He's cooking.
To then get back out into the suburbs somewhere at a house that doesn't exist? It's not possible. Actually not possible. He is for sure innocent of this accusation. Next slide. But you know, this lawyer, he doesn't care about things like this. The only other person he's brought a complaint against for just mere association, merely being at a Sean Combs party, he's already been wrong about that one too. He had to change that one. If you look at the next slide, he got the year wrong. He said there was a party in the Hamptons. Mr. Combs was in Saint-Tropez at the time. Didn't check out. 2 claims, neither are checking out. We could keep going. And we have this, individuals calling my office, telling me story after story. And, I'm not going to get sidetracked. People think I'm going to start saying, explaining he's a grifter and all these things about him. I'm not here to talk about him more than I need to. But there's people calling the office saying, yeah, they were being pressured to say stuff, to say that they were with Mr. Combs. These are affidavits. They're filed in court. This is what you're dealing with here. Next slide. And so this is
there's the 1-800 number
of the woman in the shadowy video.
Damn.
He gives a press conference, 1-800 number. And he claims 2 days after posting that press conference, 2 days, that he has 120 fully vetted plaintiffs. 120. Anybody that does this for real, anyone that knows what they're doing, knows to corroborate, to interrogate, and to be sure about even one person takes weeks. One person. You've got to find out if their story makes sense. Did they really get dropped off? Does any of it check out? Is there corroboration? Are there any witnesses? It takes weeks for one. He had 120 in 2 days.
Oh.
When he files these cases, he doesn't even enter his notice of appearance. He just has some other lawyer file them. He holds these press conferences. He says, listen, anybody out there, just call the 1-800 number. If you can put yourself anywhere near a Sean Combs party at any point, we can go after the other celebrities there. We can make money together.
Oh.
Just call the 1-800 number.
No.
That's all you need to do. And then we'll send a letter to the celebrity. They're not going to want to have this in the public light. And they're going to be shaken down and they'll send us money. So he just called the number. And Mr. Carter said no. He said, that's not going to happen anymore. I'm going to put my foot down. And that's what he did. And I would urge any other celebrity that's being shaken down right now to do the same thing and to stand with truth. None of this ever happened. And what this one lawyer is doing, he's taking the justice away from this. He's destroying this opportunity. And
guys, he is cooking, and we still got 10 minutes left and he's cooking. But this is an interesting slide because I didn't think about this at first. Like when Tony Buzbee came out of the woodwork, this was after Diddy got arrested. So it was after Diddy was in jail, right? And more was coming out on this story. But let's check out the slide. He says that they had 120 fully vetted plaintiffs within 2 days of posting the hotline. But Buzbee is now pointing another firm who allegedly did the vetting of Jane Doe's claim, right? So that is a logical fallacy. I mean, it kind of looks like a lie or a contradiction. If you're going to stand in front of a press conference, that was Tony Buzbee's press conference. Big number. And he just called him the 1-800 lawyer. Child. He called him the 1-800 lawyer. 1-800 lawyer. That number's behind him. So you're standing at this podium telling people that you have 120 fully vetted cases. Jane Doe's case wasn't fully vetted. And guess what? Jane Doe's case was filed in October, shortly after this lawsuit. Alex went in. Alex went in. Number 2, it says 20 cases filed so far with no notice of appearance. So he just talked about that. So that means that Tony Buzbee himself did not come to New York and file these cases. Somebody else filed it on his behalf. They went to the courthouse and or they could have e-filed it, those sorts of things to initiate the lawsuits. 3rd, stated anyone with known association of Diddy is a target. He did state that. I do remember that. Number 4, he sent demand letters to other celebrities to extract settlements. Look at that stance, guys. Look at that stance. Let's go back in.
the voices of real victims, and it's got to end. So, are there any questions? Yes.
One question.
Sure.
So for the people that are calling your office, I'm assuming if it's not dismissed, like worst case scenario, and you guys move forward to try and show that everything you just told us, what evidence are you guys submitting other than the accounts that are giving you over the phone? Like, do any of those people calling you have like emails between them and Buzbee or text conversations where they're encouraging this stuff?
Yeah, so let me divide that question into two if I can. We expect the case to be dismissed. If it's not, eventually this will all crumble because it can't possibly have happened mathematically. You don't even need witnesses. They don't have any witnesses because this never happened, and you don't need witnesses because the time doesn't work. Just there's literally photographic evidence that proves that this could not have happened. In terms of what's going to happen to Mr. Buzbee for this racket and everything else going on, time will tell. But this is how things unravel. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Who is Lex Intelligence, and has your firm ever hired them in connection with Tony Buzbee to investigate Tony Buzbee as he's alleged?
I don't know that firm, don't know those people, and the answer is no.
So this might just be an extension of the first question, but you said that there were people calling saying they were being pressured to say that they were with Mr. Connors. Can you elaborate on that, please? Are they calling you to say if they've been pressured?
Yeah, there was a witness that came forward that contacted my office and submitted an affidavit in court regarding this that accounted for what occurred on that day, which was they called the Buzbee firm. They said they had an inquiry. The inquiry had nothing to do with Mr. Combs, Mr. Carter, or any of this. And the people at the Buzbee firm said, well, why don't we try to push this in the direction of the Combs case? That's a better decision in sum and substance. That's a better way to go here. This individual refused to do that, contacted my office and signed them, and then an affidavit was submitted to court. Yes?
You mentioned the letters that Buzbee's been sending out to unnamed celebrities in relation to these Combs lawsuits. What were your interactions on behalf of Mr. Carter before he was renamed to the amended complaint?
Well, after the letter was received, we obviously knew this was completely false and we weren't going to be shaken down. So the efforts were nothing because there was nothing to discuss in any meaningful way.
Do you know who the Jane Doe is, like her actual identity? Has there been like research into that on your end?
Yeah, because it's a fair question. Because she's been blacked out in the video and because a court has not unmasked her in court, I'm not going to get into her identity. You will notice that I did not get into some of her issues. I don't want to. It's really sad in many respects, and I don't want to get into that. So I'm not going to unmask her here today.
Has the accuser tried to reach out to Mr. Carter before, or any of his camp or anyone?
Not to my knowledge. Yes.
Buzbee indicated that there was a second alleged victim. Has he given any notice that he's pursuing that claim as well?
No, and I would hope not after what's going on here. Yes.
You mentioned in your recent filing on this docket that you were intending to file a motion to dismiss. What's the timeline on that? Are you working on that?
Yeah, so we did file a motion to dismiss the day after this was filed.
Right.
The Rule 11 letter, which basically says that a lawyer is not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to not vet a claim and file a false claim in court, or it needs to come down. The way that works, and it's a little technical, is that the court has to allow you to file faster than you should otherwise be allowed to file. So we are hopeful that the court will respond today and we will file that. If not, there are other things that we're going to do to bring the truth to light.
I'm muted. Just so you guys know, this press conference took place on December 16th. So it is about 2 weeks old right now. But remember how we started the stream. The judge has granted the request for Jay-Z to file a motion to dismiss. So it sounds like from what he's saying that document is in existence. They have it ready. And I think we can see it filed officially a lot sooner than we think. But let's go back in.
Are there any other questions? Yes.
Are there any witnesses who will be corroborating Mr. Carter's testimony that he was not there that night? Or is that sort of what you're hinting at, that if necessary, you will provide those people?
Yeah, I mean, it's like asking to corroborate something that never happened. I mean, there are dozens and dozens of people that are going to say there was no party at the White House, that put all of these celebrities where they're already put in photographs in different places, not at a White House. Remember, according to her, all three of these people, I mean, you all have seen the photographs. I mean, on the internet, I just showed you some. All three of these people would have had to have been at this White House together, alone in a room. Just think about that. Alone in a room with this 13-year-old girl at exactly the time that they're at commercial establishments. So that there's no proof better than time. But of course, there are going to be people that are going to say that they were all out that night and nowhere near a White House, and they went to an after party at a commercial establishment. And this is all fantasy.
If this case is dismissed after that, are you guys decided definitely to file anything in addition, like an information lawsuit?
This issue with a lawyer taking advantage of the situation is going to be dealt with. I can assure you. And I think sort of stay tuned. I think the first thing today was to make sure that everybody understands. This is not an account of inconsistencies. I wanted everybody to understand that this never happened. This is completely false. And then we'll move forward from there. Yes.
What is Mr. Carter's account of that night? Does he say he was at multiple locations, just that nightclub, Lotus nightclub that he was photographed at?
Yes. I'm not going to get into sort of privileged communications and talk too much about that, but I will say that he was not at any house or any location. They were in New York City. They were at commercial establishments with lots of people around. And this is obviously completely false.
How's Mr. Carter feeling?
He's upset. He's upset that somebody would be allowed to do this. They would make a mockery of the system like this. He's upset that this distracts and dissuades real victims from coming forward. He's upset that his kids and his family have to deal with this. He's upset. They should be upset.
Jay-Z's not happy.
Is your firm investigating Buzbee, talking to people around him as he's alleged in some of his legal suit, in his suit against Twin Emanuel?
Yeah, that suit went nowhere, as you saw. And what happens when people bring frivolous cases and run rackets like this is, of course, we're asking questions. I've got people contacting my office telling me chapter and verse about him. So we don't shut off the phone lines. I'm listening because I'm trying to figure out how this is allowed to proceed like this. Yes.
He posted a photo on his Instagram of 3 men at a door of his client, suggesting that investigators came and said that they would pay $1,000 for plaintiffs to file a suit against him. I mean, do you have any connection to those men that he photographed? Do those men have any connection to Quinn Emanuel?
Zero. Okay. I don't know whether it's completely false or not, but zero connection to those people. Have no idea what that is. Don't know whether he made it up out of whole cloth. Don't know if he's trying to distract from what he's under now. But no, there's no truth to that. Anything else?
Right. Will Mr. Carter say anything more specifically about Mr. Combs? He didn't really address him in his statement, but anything since outlets and internet speculation have tried to affiliate the two of them, he didn't really, in his statement, specifically say anything about any of the allegations.
I mean, Mr. Carter has nothing to do with Mr. Combs' case or Mr. Combs. They knew each other professionally for a number of years, just like in all professions. People know each other. At the music awards, they support each other. If you go to the NBA All-Star game, they support each other. That's just how professions work. There is no closer association between any of them. That's also a matter of fiction. That's all that there is. He doesn't know anything about the charges or allegations against him. He has nothing to do with that case. And there's nothing more to say.
Saying they're not friends.
Yes.
In the original filing before it was amended, and even after, there's a second, the woman celebrity that even chose in the room. That woman celebrity, whoever that is, has there been any other people that may have been with Mr. Carter or even up that night that I reached out to you guys just wanting to know what is happening, just so that they can prepare for kind of even a fight back like Jay-Z is right now?
Well, we know other celebrities have received letters, and we've spoken to other celebrities that were there that night that say what they know about this makes no sense, couldn't have happened because they were all at a commercial establishment. So I hope that answers your question. Yes.
Was there a specific amount of money or something specific that was demanded of Mr. Carter in this demand letter that was sent to you before the complaint was filed?
There isn't a specific number that has been demanded.
But did they specifically ask for money?
In the demand letter, what did?
Yeah. So I've been asked this question before. People like this, they don't send demand letters out to not get money. That's all they want. Okay. This is not for truth and justice. This is for money. So the request was to sit down and talk about a way to resolve this matter. And we all know what that means. Yes.
Do you have any plans to release the demand letter?
Not as I stand here today. I'm more concerned with making sure that everybody knows this didn't happen. I know there's a lot of questions about this lawyer and who's after him and how much wrong has he done and these questions, and I totally understand that and respect those questions, but we'll turn to that later. Anything else? Okay. Thank you all very much for your time.
Wow, guys, that it was interesting. I mean, I liked the presentation of it, but it is interesting. A lot of people don't know that press conference took place. And, in retrospect, I definitely wanted to make sure that we took a look at it because it definitely changes the game a little bit. It definitely changes the game a little bit. Coming to our super chats, shout out to Lucretia with the $5 super chat. No comment, no question, pure love of the game. Thank you so much, sis. Happy New Year to you. And I hope you had a great holiday, off to a wonderful start to the new year. Thank you so much, Miss Shaw. Shout out to Miss Jones with the $10 super chat. No comment, no question, pure love of the game. Thank you, Miss Jones. Appreciate you, sis. Hope you also are having a wonderful start to the new year. Shout out to Emil with the $2 super chat. Says, more exciting than the nominee horse show. I mean, Emil, this is going to be, I think that this is going to be resolved a lot sooner than we think it is. So, the judge made her ruling yesterday, giving Jay-Z an opportunity to file the motion to dismiss. So we will probably see that motion. It was today, Friday. If not today, sometime next week, officially filed with the court. And then Buzbee's going to respond, talking about his argument and why he thinks that the case should move forward. Then the judge has to make a decision, right? So there could be another argument after that. I think the deadline for that one was March 6th. So we're going to see this approach very, very quickly and probably get resolved within the next few weeks. Shout out to Last Name First with the $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Last Name First says, AV, do attorneys normally go after each other's credibility and license like this? Not unless it's a super egregious thing. Now, Rule 11 is like the first thing you learn in law school. In fact, my first law school class was civil procedure. All of this is the rules of civil procedure, right? It talks about the very basic things. You, as an attorney, the very basic things the lawyer needs to learn how to do is file a lawsuit properly, right? And civil procedure always means like private matters. So anything that is not criminal, all right? So private matters between two parties, two people. These are, that's civil law. Now, they teach you things, so you learn how to properly file a lawsuit. One of the things I remember is SPV, right? Because remember those 12B motions I showed you guys? You need to make sure that you're filing in the right courthouse. That means that you're going to the right venue, right? You need to make sure that there is specific jurisdiction over the defendant, right? And personal jurisdiction over the defendant. Right? So that means being able to charge a defendant. You can't, if I'm Joe Smo from Nevada, I can't just decide to choose to sue somebody in Florida without proper cause or proper jurisdiction over that person. So there are intricacies to how you can sue, but civil procedure is the basics on how you do it, right? Then there's subject matter jurisdiction. Can the court even entertain the subject matter? This had to happen in New York, even though Buzbee is in Texas, because the issue arose from New York. The issue took place in New York, right? So he had to do this in a New York court, right? But Rule 11 is the first step to being pretty much an attorney filing a case. I need to validate that what my client said is true. And it's very important because it talks about your professional credibility. You as an attorney, are you going to check? And there's room for mistakes, but something like this where there's, if you think about what Alex is saying here, there's multiple instances of not doing the footwork and the due diligence. Now, to answer your question, the credibility is important because if you look at it, the 1-800 lawyer, in the words of Alex, not me, he made it public by having that big phone number. By basically saying we have 125 vetted cases. Was that true? So, court of public opinion, what do you guys think? Do y'all think that that is an attack on Buzbee's credibility? Put a 1 in the chat if you think it's an attack. Or 2, Buzbee made that happen himself. I mean, what do y'all think? Let me know. But as far as a license, it's not very typical, but because you have a celebrity at issue, and we're going to talk about Alex because that is a popular guy. That is a popular guy. I see a lot of twos. I see a lot of twos. Crazy, guys. Serious. But thank you so much, last name first, for the question. It's a good one and great discussion there. Dan Deasy became a member. Welcome, Dan Deasy. You're going to love it here. Welcome to the community, right? The community. We have fun over here. You're really going to enjoy our community. I always encourage people to become members, or if you got gifted a membership, we like to have fun behind the scenes. And what that means is, you know, when it comes to my production and things like that and helping my team out, I will frequently go to my members and do a community tab post and engage with you guys back there. So membership has its privileges. Thank you so much, Dan Deasy, for becoming a member. Last name first. Thank you so much for another super chat with the $5. Says thanks. Great explanation in detail. Yeah, that's one of my biggest goals on this platform as a creator is I'm using the 7 years of legal education and experience to teach you guys a little, you know, thing or two that you may not have known about the law, right? But I want to do it properly and make sure that you're properly informed because you never know when this information could help you out or a family member in the future, right? So great, super chat there. I really appreciate the acknowledgement. Shout out to CT Benny, the N World Show with the 2 says, I mainly watch for your pretty surprise faces. Y'all love those. I was watching an old clip yesterday on Instagram where, I was just looking at the best of 2024 and we had so much fun with the Young Thug case. And I did see some of my expressions during some of the trial moments and they were funny. If y'all want, maybe we could cut that up and make that into a video, but that was highly entertaining. A lot of fun, but thank you so much, CT Benny, for your interest in the show. All right, guys, two more things. I want to go into this Joe Budden thing because that was crazy. When y'all hear what this man did, and now he has a court date, it's going to be interesting. But real quick, I did want to show you something else. So we're talking a lot about Spiro right now, right? We're talking about Alex, and I showed you that press conference took place on December 16th of 2024. A day later, and excuse the ad here. What is it? A Temu ad? Go away. Go away, Temu. Leave us alone. All right, go away, Temu. Megan Thee Stallion files a restraining order against jailed Tory Lanez over psychological warfare. This article was published the very next day on December 17th. Guess who Megan Thee Stallion's attorney is for that legal matter? Guess. Who do you guys think? Who do you think it is? Let me know in the chat. Who's Megan's attorney? The very next day later, who was it? Who filed this restraining order against Tory Lanez? Pretty Eyes says Buzbee. Keyshawn says, damn it, Jamila got it. All right, listen. It's Alex. Alex is representing Jay-Z, just did that press conference. The very next day, he's representing Megan Thee Stallion in the Tory Lanez matter, filing a restraining order. I just learned about that this morning to Alex. The very next day was just like, and now I'm going to represent Megan Thee Stallion here. So let's check this out because this is very interesting. So Megan Thee Stallion has reportedly filed a restraining order against Tory Lanez, claiming psychological torment, and it continues from behind bars. The 29-year-old rapper submitted a request on Tuesday per TMZ, calling for the months of torment from Tory, who is currently serving a 10-year sentence in California for shooting at her feet back in 2020. Tory Lanez uses a network of bloggers, including Elizabeth Milagro Cooper, who Megan sued earlier this year to spread harmful lies about her, according to court documents obtained by the outlet. The filing reveals that the prison phone log suggests that there was a coordinated effort between Tory Lanez and Milagros, including a call where Tory's father allegedly asked about payments for the harassment campaign. Megan claims that the relentless psychological warfare has taken a serious toll on her mental health, leaving her depressed and distanced from friends. In a deeply distressing statement, Megan said she sometimes wishes Tory would have shot and killed me, but I would have known I was going through this torture. So shout out to Megan, looks great in that photo. There's a photo of Tory. As Tory appeals his conviction, Meg claims that he's spreading falsehoods to reduce his sentence and is now seeking a restraining order to prevent further harassment, either directly or through others. In October, Megan sued YouTuber and social media personality Milagros Grams for allegedly acting as a mouthpiece and puppet for Tory Lanez. Here it is. Megan's attorney, Alex Spiro, accused Grams of carrying out a public campaign to belittle, insult, and spread false statements about Megan Thee Stallion on behalf of Lanez. The blogger is accused of going as far as to share a deep fake, oh my God, inappropriate video depicting the rapper, her real name, Megan Pete, a move that Spiro says violates a Florida statute banning altered sexual depictions of real people. In a statement shared with the Daily Mail, Megan says, it's time to hold bloggers accountable for years of harassment, cyberbullying, and publication of misinformation about my personal and professional life. I've endured countless attacks on my character based off of falsehoods from social media bloggers representing themselves as journalists. She continued, it's unacceptable behavior, and these individuals need to understand that there will be repercussions for recklessly posting lies and defamatory falsehoods. In a statement on Twitter, Grams acknowledged the lawsuit and confirms that she has been informed that I'm being sued by Alex Spiro on behalf of his client, Megan Thee Stallion. Wow, guys. In August of 23, Tory was sentenced to 10 years in prison for shooting Megan in the feet during a drunken argument after a pool party at Kylie Jenner's house in 2020. The 32-year-old rapper, real name Daystar Peterson, begged the judge for mercy in a tense LA courtroom, claiming he still cared for Megan dearly. However, his plea didn't spare him the decade-long sentence handed down after a dramatic trial that captured the attention of the hip-hop world. The shooting occurred after an alcohol-fueled altercation in Lanez's SUV with Megan and her assistant Kelsey were present. Megan testified after a heated argument. She stepped out of the vehicle only for Tory Lanez to shout, "Dance, bitch," and fire 5 shots at her feet, leaving her with 3 bullet fragments that required surgery. In his sentencing, Tory Lanez admitted to making a very immature remarks and revealing secrets I shouldn't have revealed during the ordeal. Despite the conviction, he maintained that he still cared for Megan. In December of 22, a jury convicted Lanez of 3 felony charges: assault with a semi-automatic firearm, shooting a firearm in a grossly negligent manner, and carrying a concealed firearm in the vehicle. The jury also found that Lanez caused great bodily injury to Megan, adding enhanced penalties to his sentence. Despite pleading not guilty, Lanez's action and his attempts to silence Megan with $1 million bribe only added fuel to the fire. So, Mr. Spiro's been busy. He has been really busy because that press conference that I just showed you took place on December 16th. And then the very next day, we hear that a restraining order has been filed against Tory Lanez, even though he's in jail and is incarcerated. So the reason why that play is interesting is because a defendant could be incarcerated, they could be in jail, but because this is happening over the internet and jail phone calls between the father and other, bloggers are happening, information is being disseminated, although he's incarcerated. So Alex Spiro is just like, hey, Tory, I'm going to go to a judge, so you stop. And the judge granted that request. So actually, wait, let me not say that. I need to verify that. But I do know that it was filed. The restraining order was at least filed. We know that one for sure. So, we can see that Alex is downing. He's over here downing Buzbee, but at the same time, Alex is representing Megan. He has represented Elon Musk. He has represented Alec Baldwin in court and got Alec Baldwin off because at the end of the day, he found prosecutorial misconduct, had a prosecutor on the stand, grilled her about it, and the judge granted a mistrial. So that's a little bit about Alex, right? Okay, guys, let's jump into our next interesting story. This one was released on New Year's Eve. I told you it was going to be a busy day. Let's talk about Mr. Joe Budden. Joe Budden charged after allegedly standing naked in a hallway, and it was caught on a Ring camera. Interesting. That is a photograph of Mr. Joe Budden. If you don't know, he has a very popular podcast, the Joe Budden podcast, former rapper himself. It does pretty well from what I've seen in the industry. A lot of people talk about it. Seems pretty notable. I know there was some controversy about him a few months ago or a few years ago about him possibly being bi, I believe, like into men and women. To each their own. You pick what your orientation is. But Joe Budden is known for that. Now, let's talk about this one. So, in December, he was charged earlier this month after authorities claimed his neighbor saw him outside their apartment on Ring camera footage, completely naked, completely, bare ass, all of it out, the junk, all of it. According to court documents obtained by TMZ, Budden was charged on December 4th in Edgewater, New Jersey for lewdness, lewd behavior. Meaning he didn't have no boxers on, no briefs, not even a camisa, no shirt, like nothing, just walking around naked. And then think about that. Shout out to Full Drinking and Half Thinking, the pipe cam. Think about that. People saw you. Your neighbor saw you. That I would be, what were you doing? Why were you naked in the hallway? The Edgewater Police Department released a statement on December 30th about the incident after news of the charge broke online, explaining officers were called to an apartment complex in the area at approximately 7:21 a.m. All right, let's look at that. I have it. Here it is. Here it is, guys. Okay, so this was from the Edgewater Police Department. This is their press release. And this story, I saw it on New Year's Eve, but of course, we were all doing our thing, so I did not stream on it. But the story broke. It looks like this press release came out on Monday. They say on December 4th at approximately 7:21 a.m., the Edgewater police were dispatched to an apartment complex for the report from a resident that a man was standing outside of their apartment door completely naked. The caller recognized the man as neighbor Joseph Budden, a 44-year-old man. The caller was alerted by Budden by the doorbell camera. The video depicted Budden attempting to enter a code several times before re-entering his own residence across the hall. As a result of the police investigation, Budden was charged with lewdness, a disorderly persons offense, on a complaint summons. Chief Martin states that those charges were merely accusations that the defendant is presumed innocent until and otherwise proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So the police department came out with that press release and that statement. Let's come back to the article. It says EPD says the caller was alerted by their Ring camera that someone was outside their home, and when they looked at the footage, they claimed Joe Budden was standing outside naked as the day he was born. The caller claims that Budden attempted to enter a code into the resident's door keypad several times before heading back to his apartment in the same building. So let's talk about that. So me and you're my neighbor. You live across the hall and you've got a Ring camera, right? And I don't know if he was drunk or maybe I don't know why he would be naked in the hallway in the first place. I don't know. Maybe he was going to get a pizza delivery or something, just didn't want to put on any clothes and got confused and was probably like, oh shit. You know, like I start entering the code on your door thinking that it was my door. Maybe that's the explanation. I don't know. And yes, somebody said on a cold night. I mean, yeah, in December. 7:21 in the morning. Were you getting Starbucks delivered? Was it cafe? Was it coffee? What was it? How did this happen? Just in your birthday suit. The court complaint says a resident and two juvenile daughters observed the offense live on their phone. Oh, Lord. It's not. I want to know why. You have, it sounds like it's a woman neighbor and her two young daughters look at the phone. They're like, oh, somebody's at the door. You click on it. Oh, shit, this is my neighbor. It's my naked neighbor. What was he doing? What were you doing? Just naked. And granted, Joe Budden is a popular guy. He has one of the most popular podcasts in the hip hop space. Like, dude, put on a robe. Put on a robe at least. It goes on to say, by the way, Budden recently talked publicly about strife with his neighbors, claiming he was kicked out of his apartment for continuing to record episodes of his podcast there. He's also previously said in his podcast that he's a sleepwalker. Oh my God. His attorney, Nima Amiri Esquire of the Amiri law firm, fired back at the Edgewater Police Department by telling TMZ, and I apologize, guys. Look, TMZ is crazy. Look at the right-hand side of the screen. It says hot celebrity butts. Guess who? So we are joined by a photograph of ass as I'm reading this article. Lovely. Let's continue. Mr. Budden is saddened by Police Chief Martin's press release. Mr. Budden has been waiting weeks for his cross complaints to be processed, which includes substantially more serious charges, including possible felony charges against the person behind these charges against him. Oh, well, we didn't know that. The plot thickens. It looks like there is some history between him and these neighbors, and it looks like there are some felony charges coming. The chief has, in our opinion, sat on those, but instead used his time to gain some free publicity for himself. Chief Martin should seek publicity by being notable policing, not inflaming disorderly person allegations. Amiri added the allegations against Mr. Budden are a minor charge, not even resulting in an arrest. So he wasn't arrested for it. He was charged. A charge Mr. Budden is looking forward to beating in court on the merits, not in the press. The chief's comments are reckless and, in our opinion, racially motivated. Wow. Our research has not shown a single press release on a disorderly person charge on the police website this year. His choice to single out Mr. Budden, in our opinion, is self-motivated and based off of Mr. Budden's race and celebrity status. Budden has a court date scheduled for next month. And that's what's crazy about it, because if it took place on December 4th and we're just learning about it now, I mean, that's been a few weeks. So I was literally scrolling and doing some research for some of the other projects we were working on. And I came across that on Instagram, and they were like, Joe Budden, disorder, lewdness, like being naked, neighbors, naked, birthday suit, all of that. So I was looking at it and I was just like, wait, the press release says that it happened on December 4th. Why wasn't this released way back then? So, in the court of public opinion, we got to think about it too. Was there some shadiness in the intent of releasing this? Being fair to Joe Budden, I mean, it's never fun I want to know what happened, but it sounds like he has a history of sleepwalking. If you sleepwalking and you end up outside in your birthday suit, that is crazy. That is crazy. Coming back to our super chats, shout out to Full Drinking and Half Thinking, Trent, the Trinidaddy, with the $5 super chat here. Thank you so much. He says, they lying. Kids don't have access to Ring accounts. They was beefing already in that building. He dumb for giving that a legit reason for eviction. And that's the thing. He's talking about it on the podcast, craziness. All right, guys, coming back to our last story of our Power Hour today, we are jumping into what is happening with Diddy in jail. So we talked a lot about, Jay-Z getting his case and doing his best through Spiro to get it resolved, to get the motion to dismiss granted. That's what they're working on. Meanwhile, Diddy has been in prison. And I have a source. You have some friends in New York, some friends in Harlem. We were talking about it last night. And apparently Diddy has a jail block on lock. I mean, he's loaded with money, even though all this stuff is happening. Some of the men are staying away from him, but others are like, when he runs out of money on his phone, he could just go to somebody else and just load up somebody's commissary, and he's created some friends in there. Gets it, whatever you need, daddy. All the scrambling and scraping, all of that. So there are some people that are Diddy friendly in the prison, but let's talk about this because this also happened during the holiday. So there was a Virginia investigator, and Diddy is saying that he's supplying crucial jail information to the feds. And I don't like it. He's not happy about it because it's not fair to his case. There is a man that is giving information. He's investigating some of the claims that have arisen against Diddy. And what he's doing, this investigator is giving the CEOs information, and they are doing searches of his prison cell and things like that. And he's uncomfortable. But I mean, after what you did to Cassie, I mean, you can kind of go cry. Go cry in a corner. Go cry in a corner. But let's see what Diddy says here. Diddy's legal team is arguing that the feds are refusing to explain why his notes were a target. Diddy complaining about his notes. Oh, Lord. Let's zoom in on this one. I cannot wait to read this. Let's get some of these ads out the way. Sorry, guys. Y'all know these news articles. Zoom out a little bit. Okay. Diddy's legal team are coming out firing today as they place a hefty allegation against a West Virginia investigator. According to All Hip Hop, a safety operation was allegedly conducted to potentially discover any type of corruption or contraband. However, this investigator in particular did more than just help carry out an inspection. Diddy legal reps are alleging that he took photos of the mogul's private jailhouse notes and has been feeding them to the feds. Moreover, the defense is claiming that this is also prosecutors will have an advantage in the trial. It is indisputable that the investigator based in West Virginia has been feeding Mr. Combs' jail communications to the prosecutors. The investigator inspected and copied Mr. Combs' privileged notes. His attorney, Alexandra Shapiro, said, these jailhouse notes allegedly contain trial preparation and defense strategies. Additionally, Diddy's defense is labeling this a blatant violation of the Fourth Amendment and that the government is purposely not explaining why this sweep went for the notes. Diddy and his team make a major move ahead of the trial. The government refuses to tell the court why the investigator has to say about his motivations or thinking, Shapiro added. Furthermore, she went on to amplify some of the glaring inconsistencies in the Fed's explanations for the entire search. Prosecutors potentially made a slip up after telling the defense that the sweep was for institutional safety. However, they also came clean at one point that the notes were shared as a part of a secret investigation into the alleged obstruction and witness tampering. Now, let's talk about that for a second, because that did come out. They are saying that Diddy was tampering with witnesses and getting in the way of the investigation. And that's probably why they were looking for the notes. That's what the suspicion is. But the attorney here is just like, oh, they're going after Diddy's notebooks. Why? It contains information that is close to what we talk about, because your lawyer can go visit you in jail. And as far as preparing for the trial, you will have meetings with them. And they're saying that it's not fair. Y'all are coming and taking his notes, and those notes contain information that's pertinent to our defense strategy. And it is likely that this investigator is taking that information and giving it to the feds, which gives them an unfair advantage, and he cannot properly have a setup for his defense. This is going to be interesting when the trial starts, because you can just see how Diddy's like sitting there plotting, like, all right, we're gonna raise some of these issues as far as pre-trial stuff, meaning like these are some of the shenanigans that happened pre-trial. They were targeting my notes. They were targeting this. They were targeting that. Sometimes you could just see the arguments form before a trial happens. Interesting, right? And that's why some of this stuff, these attorneys will make the statements out to the public. Because think about it. You didn't have to tell allhiphop.com that, but you're choosing to. It's a setup. Setting up a defense. The government's bald assertion that there was a legitimate ponological purpose contradicts its admissions about the investigators' roles in assisting the prosecutors to develop evidence against Mr. Combs for this case, and notably is unsupported by any affirmation or declaration by the prosecutors or any other BOP official. Diddy's team is looking into obtaining a special figure to handle all private materials. Finally, if the judge does side with Diddy, all of the notes will be stripped from the prosecutors. Interesting. That's the update on Diddy. But wow, guys. Anywho, that concludes today's Power Hour. Lots of stories that we went over as far as legal news that has been accumulating throughout the week. We did go live on the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni situation. So if you're not done, you want to binge some of the live streams, check that out. We did that yesterday. And of course, the other big story that we dropped this week was the hack tour girl being sued. So please check out that video. I will link it for you guys if you're watching this on replay. If you want to check out more AV, that's how you can do it. Tonight, I am joining many other law tubers to celebrate the life of a dear friend. His name is Legal Vices. He passed away a few weeks ago. His channel had about 83,000 subscribers, and we are so happy to announce that we got him over 100,000, and he leaves behind a son, Connor, who is now going to receive his YouTube play button. To honor Legal Vices and the great work he's done here on YouTube, lots of attorneys in the space are coming together to have a small memorial. So I'll pop in and say a few words. So if you guys could check that out, that would be fantastic. I'll share more on my community tab later today. But of course, you guys check out Legal Vices' channel. We do want to respect his family, and the son has asked, for people to check out the channel, check out the content. But we are going to be doing that memorial stream on a different channel. So stay tuned on my community tab for more on that one. Coming to Full Drinking and Half Thinking with the $5 says, they will make enough mud and make it seem like the system is overbearing. And Riddler comes out under mega restrictions. It's a bigger fish than him. That's a good point. I didn't think about it like that. Full Drinking and Half Thinking. I really didn't. And guys, Full Drinking and Half Thinking is also a YouTube channel. Check it out. Trin is an amazing host and has a great panel discussions all the time. One of the mods are hanging around. Check out Full Drinking and Half Thinking. We'll drop a link to that channel as well. Thank you so much for the super chat, Trin. Shout out to Drew Beats. Hi, I haven't seen you in forever with the $10 super chat. He says, finally caught you live. The Pantene Ashley Merchant interview was fire. 2025 looks good on you. Thank you so much, Drew Beats, and really appreciate that. Also, another one of my favorite things that I've done this year, honestly, last year, we were going to do a 2024 compilation. It just didn't work out, so we ran out of time and did not put that together. But one of my favorite interviews, probably the biggest interview I've ever done on this channel, was with one Ashley Merchant. If y'all have some binge watching time, go check that out. It's probably like 3 or 4 lives ago. I had a wonderful discussion with her. Ashley is such a huge inspiration to many aspiring young attorneys out there. Recently had a huge win in the Fonnie Willis, Nathan Wade open records request piece where with that particular case, the judge mentioned to Fonnie Willis, like, hey, you got to stop number one, dodging subpoenas. You can't do that anymore. And number two, with this whole, issue on the Trump case, they took the whole Fulton County DA's office off of that case. And the only reason why that happened is because about a year ago today, Ashley Merchant filed a motion, to make sure that Fonnie Willis's team was being more straightforward. She had an inappropriate relationship with Nathan Wade, admitted to that. However, the Judge McAfee in that particular case stated that it wasn't enough to get Fonnie removed from the case. They took Nathan off, but she wanted to stay on. She wanted the Fulton County DA's office to stay on the case. The judge in that case said it wasn't enough, goes up to the Georgia Supreme Court, and they say, actually, it is enough. You're out of here. So huge win for Ashley Merchant. Super, super skilled attorney. She explained why RICO charges were trumped up, so to speak, in Georgia. So thank you so much, Drew Beats, for that plug. And thank you so much for the super chat. Guys, please check out that interview. It's one of my favorite interviews. I took a clip of that interview, put it on Twitter. It's like blowing up. It's got like 40,000 views or something crazy like that. So people really, really enjoyed that. All right, guys, I'm going to pop on out of here. We are going to try to do more of these power hours. There are lots of cases that are happening in January. So stay tuned. Make sure that you're subscribed. Your notifications are on. If you're not a member, consider being a member. And if you're finding me for the first time, please subscribe. We have fun over here. You're going to love it over here, right? Anywho, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. We will be in your feed. So stay tuned and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.